Miles Bridges says he has some unfinished business to take care of at MSU, foregoing an opportunity to become a lottery pick in the upcoming NBA draft in order to chase a championship for the green and white. With his decision to return to the Spartans, is it championship or bust for Tom Izzo and crew? For some answers, I turn to Chris Solari, a Michigan State beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, who joined me on Tuesday. Chris, we want to take the opportunity to welcome you to the Two Man Advantage podcast this morning, and we're excited to talk about Miles Bridges' decision to return to MSU with you this morning.
Yeah, well, I think it surprised some people that he decided to make that decision, but kind of over the course of the last few months and being around him, it doesn't surprise me that he made the decision. What it surprises me is that he bypassed the NBA more so than returning to college. I just think there's so much money that's on the table for these guys. And really, if he does well, if he accelerates his draft stock and does all the things that he needs to beyond just simply the team goals he has, he's got a chance to play himself up into maybe the top 5 in the draft next year. And what that'll do is end up giving him basically $10 million more over the course of his rookie deal, which, that's a big deal. I mean, you make the money on your second deal in the NBA, but the first deal, to be able to make that much more between 1 year, if it's possible, again, obviously some things have to work out perfectly for him, but I think it could be a very sound financial decision long term as well as for the short term for him trying to chase a national title.
Now, you talk about it being a good financial decision for him coming back going forward. Can you tell me what you think? After watching the press conference of his decision, I came away with the thought that it was a methodical decision and a lot went into it. Can you tell me from the Spartan standpoint why you think he came back?
Well, I think a large part of it is because he does want to chase that national title. I think this is a kid who he sacrificed 3 years of his high school life to move away from Flint. His mom wanted him to get away from some bad influences there, and really, by all accounts, there's a lot of things when you talk to Miles Bridges, when you talk to the people around him, he really grew as a person and as a leader, I guess, in a lot of ways there. So I think that's part of it. I think there's some stability that comes with being in a college campus and being close to home. I mean, when you go into the NBA, you end up becoming a nomad. I mean, you're going to be going town to town for the better part of basically October through potentially June. And, the one thing that college offers, obviously the class and the ability to get your education beyond basketball, but it also offers him a chance to be in a stable place and to be in one spot at least for another year. And I think that's a big part of it with this. This is a different kind of kid. He's really thought this through, as you said. I think that, when you look at the reasoning that comes into it, whether it's from a team goal standpoint of trying to play for a national title and cement his legacy, not just at Michigan State, but in the state of Michigan. And then if you look at it again from the financial aspect, I mean, the top, he was projected 8 to 14 in this year's draft, which would have made him about $5.5 million over the course of his rookie deal. Which isn't bad, but if he's able to play himself up in the draft next year, I mean, you're talking about potentially the top pick next year's draft will make about $16.5 million over the course of the rookie deal to upwards of like $10.8 million. So when you're talking between $5 and $10 million more dollars for one more year in college, that's not bad. I mean, that's sound financially, and it obviously from an educational standpoint gets you a little farther along towards your degree, and from a team goal standpoint, it gives you a chance to cement yourself as a legend in the state, and that's stuff that you can't really buy with money.
Now, when we look at Michigan State, obviously they have one of the top recruiting classes coming in. So with Bridges' return, in your opinion, what is the ceiling for MSU?
It's a good question. I think that, returning the guys that they have with Bridges, Nick Ward, Cassius Winston, and Joshua Langford from last year, that was Tom Izzo's best recruiting class. And, right now he's got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Xavier Tillman signed up. And those are both top 100 guys. Jackson's one of the fast-rising high school senior prospects right now. I think he's up to number 6 in Rivals.com. He's a stretch 4. He's a guy that complements Bridges. Bridges had to play out of position this year with some of Michigan State's injuries, which I think is another reason to come back. It allows you to showcase your game at the 3, whereas now you've got a legitimate 4, a stretch 4 there that allows him to slash, allows him to shoot outside, do some of the things that he didn't have the ability to do this year because they were so undersized and he had to play a lot of back to the basket. I do think that, the ceiling for this team next year, I saw that Vegas has them up to a co-favorite with Kentucky right now for a national title. I think that's warranted. It's obviously a long way between now and next April when there's a national championship on the line, but this is a team that might have Izzo's best chance to bring another title back to East Lansing.
Now, when we look at the Flint Connection, obviously, Bridges also talked about that during his press conference and wanting to carry on that legacy. So can you just give me your thoughts on what you think the Flint factor had to do with his decision?
Well, I think it's an important thing for him. All those guys from Flint have kind of brought him along, the Mateen Cleaves, Morris Peterson, Antonio Smith. Those guys have all been there and have seen him grow from a child in the gyms where they used to play to playing on their college court. And from Miles' standpoint, he was at Huntington Prep for 3 years down in West Virginia, and that's where he became a real national steam player. He was a top 10 to 15 player coming out of high school, but he didn't do it by tweet. He didn't do his announcement to MSU by any type of video or anything. He came back to Flint for that. He wanted to be near his family, his mom, his sister. He has 2 sisters. His dad's there. He wanted them to be part of this, and I think that's a big reason. It's not just simply the Flint factor. I do think that's a major thing because I think that he has talked about that. His mom has talked about that. He's a guy in Flint right now that's a shining beacon in a town that's really struggling with a lot of things well beyond sports. The water crisis situation there is well documented, and Miles Bridges is a guy that kind of along those Morris Peterson veins that he wants to give back to his community as much as he can. I thought it was important to see him go to Flint to announce that he was going to Michigan State, and I thought it was just as important the way he announced it at Michigan State. He went to the center of campus by one of the most iconic places at Michigan State to say he was staying there. There's a lot to be said in that. I think it's not just the Flint Connection. It's Michigan. It's East Lansing. It's everything. This is a kid who holds all of those things very dear to him and wants to leave an impacting legacy on him.
Finally, a 2-part question for you, Chris. Can you tell me what you think Bridges will work on as a player to get better as he goes into next season? And what do you think has to break right for the Spartans to ultimately give Izzo his most coveted second national championship?
Well, I think a lot of things have to break. I'll start with the back end of that. I think that you obviously have to get production out of your big men, and that's something that they've struggled with this year beyond Nick Ward. They basically had Nick Ward, and like I said, Miles Bridges played out of position in that. So I think you shift Bridges out to the 3. You get better big men production with Tillman and with Jaren Jackson Jr. They get Gavin Schilling back. I think they have to stay injury free. There's still 2 open scholarship spots. One might be for Ben Carter, the grad transfer from UNLV. That's in limbo with the NCAA, but if that doesn't go through for a 6-year appeal, which I don't think it will, I think it's going to be difficult. Then Tom Izzo has 2 more scholarships to offer, and they've got a couple big-time recruits that they're looking at. They've got a kid from Saginaw and Brian Bowen that they're looking at, a kid from Chicago who lives in San Diego, Brandon McCoy. Both of those guys are McDonald's All-Americans, Jordan Brand Classic guys. They're high-profile guys. And then the third guy is a high-rising late guy, Mark Smith, out of Edward for baseball, and they're looking at him really hard to come in now as the Gatorade Player of the Year. So I think, we'll see, I guess, in the next few weeks how that shakes out for Tom Izzo's recruiting to add some more of those big pieces. But I think even without any of those guys right now, with Bridges coming back, this team intact, looks like it should be a national title contender barring those injuries, and I think that's the big thing. As far as what Bridges needs to do to his game, I think the ability to play at the three is really the thing that a lot of people wanted to see. You saw it at times when he would get out in transition. He gets the ball around midcourt. He's a special kind of player. He has an upright kind of ability to direct traffic on the break. And I hate to use the comparison, but I think there's some LeBron James in that, and just how upper body skill he is, and how he's able to see the court, and how he's able to run the court and slash and go above the rim. I mean, a lot of those things that are better accentuated at the three maybe than they are at the four. When you're at the four, you got to, like I said, you had to play a lot of back to the basket. You had to play in the paint. I think he showed a lot of that versatility being able to do that this year. But his big strength really, I think, is slashing. And really this year he was more of a spot-up three-point shooter, too, as a stretch four. I mean, that surprised a lot of people, I think. But I think he has to work on his offhand. He has to be able to show the ability to get through traffic, get to the rim. And with the talent Izzo has around him now, so it's not just a one-man show. I mean, he's got other McDonald's All-Americans. He's got a lot of talent around him, but there's no question that he is the guy. And I think from a leadership standpoint, that's another thing. I mean, when you talk about the intangibles that need to be shown, Miles Bridges, this is his team. I mean, I think that's the one thing when he announced that decision and how he announced it, that was a statement to say, this is my team, let's go. And, I think a lot of this, Tom Izzo's chances of a second national title are going to hinge on the success and development of Miles Bridges.
Hey, Chris, we want to thank you for a couple of minutes talking about the Miles Bridges' decision, and we want to thank you for your time this morning on the Two Man Advantage podcast.